Welcome to lesson 3 of our introduction to the Java programming language. In this lesson, I would introduce you to Java variables and data types. What are variables? Variables are containers for storing data values temporarily on the computer's memory. By data values, we mean stuff like your bank information that would have details like your account name, balance, account number, your age, as well as other vital information. Let's take a look at our account name, which is made up of letters that represent a combination of our first and last names. This sort of data is expressed as string in Java, and strings are written between a pair of double quotes. Our account balance is a number in decimal. We have a data type called double, used to express numbers in decimals. We also have the floats, which we will discuss in a minute. We have our account number made up of whole numbers, as well as our age, which is whole number as well. Whole numbers in Java are expressed as int data types. Okay, so let me take you to my kitchen cabinet where I have various food containers for preparing different delicacies. I have containers containing different spice and labels on the body on the container for us to identify these items. Similarly in Java, we have our data type, variable name called identifiers because these names help us to identify the variables. So let's look at how to create variables in Java. We first of all type the data type, the variable name, the equal sign, which is called an assignment operator, as well as the value for which we want to store in the variable. So the equal sign is an assignment operator because it assigns the identifier of variable name on the left side to the value that is specified on the right side. So let's see how this works in IntelliJ IDE. Before we start declaring variables, I would like to add a line of comments above the class. From our last lesson, you remember to create multi-line comments. We have two backward slashes and a pair of stars. And here we can say lesson 3 of our introduction to Java programming series. Okay, so I'll go to the main method now, and to make our code more readable, I'm going to add two separate lines of comments. The first line is for us to describe the kind of code that would follow, and the next line would be as a guide for us to declare our variables. So I would say creating a new user's bank account, and as well add the guide for creating our variable, which is data type variable name equals value. Okay, so the first variable that comes in mind is the user's first name, and we say first names are words, and words are expressed as string in Java. So the data type would be string, the name would be first name equals, I'll put a pair of double quotes and write John in between and end this line with a semicolon. Can as well declare the last name, which is Doe, and declare other useful variables as well, but I'll leave it a blank line to make our code more readable. And then declare the user's age. So age is a whole number and data type will be int. So I'll put int age equals 25. The user's account number will be int as well. So I would say account number equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the opening balance, because it has decimals, is going to be double. So I'll say opening balance equals 76 500.50. Now, I would like to introduce a new data type to you, which is called Boolean. So Boolean is used for storing data that has true or false value. So imagine we want to know if this account holder is underaged. So I would say Boolean is underaged, false. I can also declare another Boolean, maybe to say is account upgradable. So I would say Boolean is account upgradable. Set it as true. So far, I've mentioned and talked about the following data types. I've talked about string, int, double, and boolean. String, int, double, and boolean are key or reserved words in Java, which have certain predefined meanings. Hence, these words can be used as variable names in our application. So, take for instance, we instead of giving this variable name is underaged, we decide to put double. You would see we have an error message here because we can't use keywords as variable names. Now, there are no hard rules for stating our variable names, but it's important to follow certain conventions. Let's take for instance, is account upgradable? You would see that the first word is in lowercase, and the first letter of every word that follow is in uppercase. We call this Kalmer case in programming. It's also important to have variable names that sort of describes the kind of data that is saved in that variable. So what we have here, we are saving our first name in a variable called first name. We're saving our last name in a variable called last name. And we follow this particular convention all through our declaration. So data type for numbers also have other types as well. We have an alternative data type for storing whole numbers. This data type is called long. So long is used whenever we have an integer whole number that is large in value. Let's take our account number. We have int, we have declared our account number as int. But imagine if this account number is more than 10 digits. So let's say we want to declare it as long. So we'll put long. We'll say account number. Now this gives us an error. Why? Because a variable cannot be defined more than once. So we can comment out our previous declaration and the error is gone. So long account number equals, I'll simply just copy this, paste, and then add two more digits. So I'll just say 1, 2. Now you would see that the compiler is screaming an error message that says integer number too large. So what are we going to do now? Now for us to clear out this error, we simply put an L after the number. But this gives us a warning. It says long literal ends with lowercase l. So whenever we declare our variable as long, the value must have an L that ends it. In this case, we put an L to show that this is a long, but the lowercase l sort of looks like the number one and can be confused with it. So it's advisable to use an uppercase L whenever we declare our variables as long. If you can recall in our introduction, I mentioned that decimals can be expressed as doubles as well as floats. So just as we have long as the big brother of ints, we have floats like the small sister of double. So We can as well write our opening balance as floats. So I'll just copy this, paste, comment out this line, and then change this to float. Now, just the way we had an error when we declared long and we needed to put an L, whenever we declare a number as float, we should add an F because this tells us that the required type is float but provided double. So the compiler sees any declaration of decimals as double except we put an F to signify that this number is a float. So we can use lowercase f or an uppercase f. So what's not the difference between float and double? You remember we declared variables as containers for storing data values temporarily on the computer's memory. That simply means that whenever we declare a variable, a portion of the RAM of the computer is allocated for storing that variable. So whenever we declare a variable as float, float takes up to 32 bits of computer's memory, while double takes twice that amount, which is 64 bits, hence the name double. Now that I've shown how to declare variables, let's see what we can do with them. Let's say John Doe checks his account balance in an ATM. We first want to greet him when he inserts his card, right? To do that, we can write something like, let's say, system out print line. I would say we want to say good day, John Doe. But instead of having John Doe here, we can use the variable names that have been declared in the message. So I would remove John Doe that's written here. Now you see that the first name holds John, we have a space, and we have Doe, which is represented by the last name. So in order for us to add variables as print statements in Java, we use the plus symbol. So we will type first name, which represents Doe. We have a space. We put another plus here to add the last name, and then we can remove this text, John Doe. So we have an error message here because we need to put another plus. And once we run this, you would see we have good day, John Doe. So this message is supposed to show when the user inserts his card into the ATM and types in the right PIN. But for now, we are going to deal with printing out messages, and in a subsequent tutorial, I will show you how to accept inputs from a user, just like John Doe's ATM PIN. After greeting John Doe with a message, let's assume John Doe has entered his PIN correctly and clicked on check account balance. So we want to display John Doe's account balance to him. Now I can duplicate this line by putting my cursor at the end of this line and using the command D to replicate this line of code on the next line. So we want to do something like your account balance is, and then we give him account balance. So I will comment out, I will remove this. I'll put a pair of double quotes and say your account balance is, we know our John Doe's account balance is this. So we need to have something like this, right? In order for us to do this, we would leave your account balance is with this space, and then we use the plus sign to add opening balance. Since we have our opening balance here, we would simply remove this and perform our print statement. So here you see we have your account balance is this. and the compiler knows that this F is just to signify that this number is a float, so it doesn't include it in the print statement. We can make the messages in the console more readable by having a print line. Oh, so I have to say system out print line, and I just leave it like this. So what this does is it prints out a blank line. So let's rerun it, and you now see that we have a space in between the two messages. In a previous tutorial, I mentioned that we can print out the results of arithmetic evaluations. Now, in this case, imagine John Doe makes a withdrawal, and we now want to show the new balance. In this case, I would write a comment that says show balance to user after withdrawal. So what I'm going to do, we can say system out print line. Now we have the opening balance. Let's say John Doe makes a withdrawal of 40,000. We can go ahead and run this by doing Control arrow, and we would now see that it says it prints out our opening balance. So I would want to say I'll put a plus here. Let's say your balance after withdrawal is. Now, because we have an arithmetic um, calculation here, we can put this in parentheses. And so we do, we run our command again. So you see we have your balance after withdrawal is 36,500. So that's the end of part 1 of Java variables and data types. See you in the next tutorial.